Right, okay. So in this part of the on this part of training, we're going to be talking about operating your service accommodation business. So what is operating your service accommodation business? So this is the day-to-day runnings of the actual business. Okay. It doesn't just start and end with getting bookings. You also have to um, make sure that the guests are checked in, the apartments are clean, and you've got an automated way and an automated system of making sure that the apartments are equipped with linen bedding, towels, the toiletries and the condiments. But also, most importantly, you've got the staff to do it. That's if you're not doing it yourself. So housekeeping is really, really important. It's the foundation of your whole service accommodation business. If your housekeeping is shaky, if it's not consistent, if it's not thorough, then your service accommodation business will definitely suffer. Take it from me. When you've got, especially when you've got more than two apartments, it's even more important to make sure that you have set systems in place to make sure that every member of your housekeeping department knows what they're doing, where they're supposed to be doing it, and how they're supposed to be doing it. Okay, it's really, really important that you do that. In the hospitality, hotel, and now service apartment business, there is a very high turnover of staff. It's really difficult to find loyal staff that will stay with you for the duration of the business. The main reason for that is because of the rate of pay. Minimum wage usually attracts students and people who are not prepared to work for minimum wage forever and ever. So what happens is you'll get a student, they would then decide that they want to move on in life and get a better paying job because they've finished uni or whatever. Fair enough. They'll work for you for 6 months and then they're gone. And then you get the other people that are still, in sort of somewhere between 30 and 40, who are getting paid, minimum wage, because that's the going rate for housekeeping staff. Then they realize that they don't want to be doing that forever and ever. So again, they'll leave. So your housekeeping has to be on point. You have to be able to have plans in place for any eventualities. For instance, if somebody calls and says, I can't make it today, and there's 3 apartments that need to be cleaned, what are you going to do? Are you going to then get in your car and go and clean yourself? Or are you simply going to have a proven system that you've put in place that will say, okay, well, this cleaner's not turning up, I'm going to call an agency and get them to go in there. These are the things you need to think about before you start running your SA business. What happens if this goes wrong? Do you have a plan in place to make sure that when things do go wrong, or when things don't work out as how you wanted them to, that you need to have a plan B. So housekeeping is your foundation. Keep that in mind. Who is going to be cleaning? How many hours are they going to be working? What are you going to pay them? Okay, all these things are important to think about. Are you going to employ them, or are you going to have them on, so are you going to get self-employed cleaners, so then they invoice you at the end of the week or at the end of the month? Are you going to use agency cleaners? These are the things that you need to think about before you even go and put down a deposit for a service apartment business. Personally, what I do is I learned the hard way. Okay, I started off using an agency because I thought, okay, let the specialists do what the specialists do, and that's cleaning, right? But I was really wrong. You cannot rely on an agent to run your business, because what they're responsible for is providing you with a cleaner. It's not guaranteed. There's instances where I had an agency, a high profile agency for that matter, in London, who was cleaning for me, and I was paying them £15 per hour, and they had a minimum minimum hours of 3 hours. So that meant that I was paying a lot of money to start with. But what really pissed me off was that they were sending different cleaners almost every day. So what that meant was that every time there was a new cleaner, I would then have to explain to them what they need to do. Because although their agent has told them where to go and generally what to do, they're not told exactly what they need to do. They're not told the specifics. So I found spending 2 hours talking to a cleaner, telling them what they need to do and asking them questions about what they've done. And that's not how I wanted to run the business. So I quickly decided that, nope, I wasn't going to do that. So the next best thing that I did was to actually employ what I call my head housekeeping lady. Okay, perhaps there's a better term for that, but that's what I call her. She's my head housekeeping lady. I employ her on a full-time basis. She's a cleaner, and then what she does as well is that she overlooks the agency cleaners. So she's there every day, Monday to Sunday, working from 10 o'clock till 3 p.m. What she does is that she cleans apartments as well as overlook the other agency cleaners. So it doesn't matter if they send a new cleaner on any day, the agency that is. I've got someone on the ground who knows the ins and outs of every unit that we have in London. So that's how I managed to tackle this housekeeping thing. And then obviously as I grew, as I had more than 12 apartments and then it got to 13 and 14 apartments, I realized that I needed someone who would manage this head housekeeper, because then obviously she was by herself to start with, but as we got more and more units, we had more business, and she couldn't manage it by herself. We also have check-in staff. So I hired an ops manager. So the ops manager's job is to make sure that his staff have everything that they need every day for them to do their job. Not only that does he do that, but he also manages their time. Okay, this freed me up to be able to say, okay, I'm not taking phone calls from cleaners complaining about bedding and pillows and flat sheets. What I'm concentrating on is developing and growing the business. That's what allowed me to scale up, and that's what allowed me to stay profitable, because I'm not worrying about bedding, and I'm not worrying about a guest that's arrived too early or a guest that's late. That's not my concern anymore. I have a team member, that's my ops manager, who manages the smaller team members, so the housekeepers and the cleaners and the check-in staff. So he's like my eyes on the ground. And when I see him calling me, I know it's important, because he doesn't call me for the sake of calling me. He's never going to call me to say we've run out of flat sheets, because obviously he knows what he's supposed to do to avoid the situation of flat sheets running out. And even if they do run out, he knows what to do to get replacements. So those are the things you need to think about. Look at this as a long game. Don't be short-sighted about serviced accommodation. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to think about, what do you want to do as the business owner? What do you want to be responsible for? Okay. If you have one apartment and you want to do all of this by yourself, then by all means, you can definitely do it. But once you get to about 3 apartments, then it's time to get help. Delegate and have competent people around you. This will save you a lot of money and a lot of hassle in the short term. Okay? The next thing that I'm going to talk to you about now is linen and bedding. Most people don't know whether to buy their linen and bedding or whether to hire it. Personally, from a cash flow point of view and from an operational point of view, that is saving time, I would say hire. Because if you buy your linen, first of all, you're going to have a massive outlay in cash to start off with, because linen is not cheap. You have to buy durable, good stuff, and it's not cheap, let me tell you. So if you spend a lot of money on linen, and then you have to spend money in time because you have cleaners that then have to wash and iron these things, okay, you're spending a lot more than you need to. So it's best to hire. If you commission or hire a linen hiring company, what they'll do is they will sit down with you, ask you how many apartments or rooms you've got, how much bedding, how many towels, bath mats, pillowcases, flashes, how many of those things do you need? And then they'll work out your stock. This is sort of like your base stock. And then what they'll do is they'll calculate your replenish inventory. So for instance, if they give you if they determine that your base stock is 400 flat sheets, your replenish inventory, which is what they deliver and pick up from you every week, should be somewhere around about 30% of that. So that's what they'll bring to you every week, and that's what they'll pick up from you every week. The reason they do that is because if anything happens to the truck driver on his way to deliver and he can't make it, you've got spares sitting around somewhere. Okay? So you don't pay for the base stock. You don't pay for all of it. You only pay for what you actually use. But to cater for emergency situations, you will have a base stock that's usually, double what your inventory needs to have. And I'll show you an example in a minute. But those are the benefits of hiring. You don't have to worry about washing them. You don't have to worry about ironing them. They will come to you well ironed and very, very clean. Okay? And then all your cleaners, your housekeeping team has to do is lay them on the bed. Okay? Simple. Because if you have a cleaner going into an apartment, having to wash, dry, and iron bedding, that it's going to take them 3 hours to clean one apartment. And that's a long time. My cleaners have 1.5 hours to clean a 1 or a 2-bed apartment. If they need more than 1.5 hours, that's something they have to talk with the ops manager about. They can't just clean for 3 hours, especially agency cleaners. They like to stay in apartments for 4 or 5 hours and then say, well, it was really dirty and so the time was needed. Make sure that you control that relationship right from the beginning, especially when you have agency cleaners. Even if you hire someone, give them guidelines and tell them that if they need to shift the guidelines for whatever reason, they need to get your approval first. Because if anyone is half an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes late from cleaning an apartment, it just means that you're going to delay the check-in staff and possibly delay the guests actually accessing the apartment. So make sure that you've got all these things under control right from the beginning and have set guidelines that you actually stick to. Okay? The next thing I'm going to talk about is toiletries and condiments. I personally think that, when people come from booking a hotel and they want to explore service departments, we as service department providers should try and match what the hotel provides. Because if all you have to offer is space, then, it's not going to be a long-lasting relationship. There's other things, other facilities that guests value over space. That is, toiletries. They're very, very important, especially for group travelers. When people are traveling, they've got large suitcases, and these suitcases are usually full of clothes and important documents. What they don't want to do is to have a separate bag of shower gels and, toilet roll and coffees and stuff like that. People don't even want to go, to the nearest corner shop to buy themselves milk or coffee, because they expect to have these things when they're paying money to stay in an accommodation. So it's only right that we as service department providers offer the same facilities as the hotels. I have 2 companies that I buy my toiletries and condiments from, and they're well priced, they're reasonably priced. And I'll show you these companies in a minute. But always try and have, at the very minimum, shower gel and shampoo. The lotion, that's just an extra. If you want to go the extra mile, then yeah, by all means provide lotion. But on the most basic levels, have shower gel and or soap, and then shampoo for hair. Condiments, milk, coffee, tea is a must-have. Biscuits, maybe, not really necessary, but it does help. It makes a difference. We have chocolate chip cookies in our apartments, and we always leave enough for them. So if we have 6 guests staying or 5 guests staying, there's always 5 2 packs of chocolate cookies, they are always gone. The guests actually eat them. I've tasted them. I'm not a biscuit person myself anyway. I don't like them. But there's people who actually like biscuits and tea, biscuits and coffee. So these are things that guests will actually appreciate and make use of. It's a deciding factor for a lot of guests as well. Facilities are really, really important. Toiletries and condiments, make sure that you're providing them if you can. If you're not, these things are very, very cheap. So do you really want to lose a booking because you can't be bothered to spend 15p on charger? That's just something for you to think about. And then now we're going to talk about check-ins, hiring staff, and managing staff. Check-ins. This is where a lot of people need a lot of help with, because they don't know what they really need to be doing. And this is something you need to think about before you even go and pay for an apartment. Most people go and get an apartment, and then they start to think about, oh, how are we going to check the people in? How are we going to, check the guests in? There's 2 ways of doing it. You can have a key box outside the building that the guests will access to enter the apartment, okay? Or you can have someone be at the apartment waiting for them to give them the key and show them around the apartment. Those are your 2 options, all right? The first option saves you on money because you're not paying somebody to wait around for 8 hours a day, waiting for guests. Most people use this, and I used to do this myself when I had apartments in Kensington because of how the buildings are laid out. There was space for a key box. I would have the key box there. A guest would go there with the code, open the key box, get the key, enter the building, and into the apartment they go. Easy. The other option is, to have someone meet and greet the guests. There's services that can provide this for you, but remember to factor that expense. Most people will charge anything from 15 to 50 pounds for one meet and greet. So bear that in mind. What I do is before I get an apartment, I go to the building personally to take a look at it because I want to try and figure this out. It's all about saving money and lowering your operational costs as much as possible. If that building has a concierge, the first thing that I do is I will get my people to go and speak to the concierge and ask them, would it be okay if we leave our key behind the desk with you in an envelope with the guest's name? So when the guest arrives, they come to the desk and they pick up the key, upon showing their ID. If the concierge is okay to do that, then basically you've struck gold. That is a building you never, ever, ever, ever want to leave. Because essentially, you can't pay the concierge because that's not allowed. They're not your employees, so you can't pay them. But you can give them perks, like the concierge that handle keys for me. We give them, vouchers for free stays in the apartments. We get them vouchers from Marks and Spencer, Next, Argos, the good brands, and they're not cheap. Okay, last month I spent about £2,000 on vouchers for one building. The reason I do that is because my team, my brand, and the concierge, we have now formed a relationship. And that relationship is very, very, very important to me. So if you want to maintain a certain level of relationship, if you want the concierge building to be on your side, then there has to be some perks that come with it. You can't expect them to hand you your key and then get nothing in return. Yeah, you can't give them money, but there's also highly valuable things that you can offer them in exchange. So those are your 2 options. Hire someone to wait for the guests, or have the concierge handle the keys for you, but make sure to ask them. You can't just walk up to a concierge and say, oh, can you please, give this key to so-and-so who's arriving at 4 o'clock today. Okay, so that's it for the check-ins. Make sure you know what you're doing before you even go and get an apartment. Now, hiring staff. This is a great mystery for a lot of people, and for me sometimes, because you get people who are keen to work, and then 2 weeks into it, especially after they've been paid, they start doing the disappearing act. They don't turn up for work, And if they do, sometimes they turn up really late. So to start with, when I was doing the service department business, I would put up an ad on Gumtree. What I didn't realize is that Gumtree, when people are looking for jobs on Gumtree, these are usually people on benefits, and they're looking for something to just prop up their benefit. So when they find a part-time job or a full-time job, they'll go for it and be keen. But as soon as that benefit goes into the bank account and they've been paid, they don't need to work anymore. They don't need to work for another 3 weeks. Okay, and then they just disappear, or they become a lot less reliable. So I stopped using Gumtree to advertise for cleaning jobs, and I decided that I was going to find a specialist platform where competent cleaners, housekeeping staff, check-in people would be looking for these jobs, because that's what they really, really want to do. And I came across a website called Caterer, and I'll go through Caterer with you in a minute. But hiring staff is really, really important. You have to figure out how much are you going to pay them, how long are they going to work for on any given day, and which days are they going to work. You also have to factor in weekends, because remember, guests check in at weekends as well. We don't get time off in the service accommodation business. It's go, go, go every day. Unless if you're fully booked and there's no check-ins happening. But either way, somebody needs to be on standby anyway. So when you're looking for staff, you have to look for people who are highly competent in what they say they can do. So instead of just hiring someone on the spot, have them go through a probationary period. I've got a probationary period of 3 months. Okay. If after 3 months you've performed well and you've hit your targets, whatever those targets may be, then I will offer you a full-time job. And that's made known right from the beginning, during the interview process. If you don't have a probationary period, it just means that you're going to hire someone right off the go, and if they perform badly, you have to let them go, and then the process starts all over again. So you've potentially invested a lot of time and energy into someone who's not a good fit for your business. Sometimes you have to give people the chance. For a lot of people, serviced accommodation is still new. Serviced accommodation is not the same as working in a hotel, because if you're working in a hotel, there's a reception, there's an area where people sit down and eat, and it's all rosy, it's all cushy. But with serviced accommodation, what usually happens is that we have apartments on the 3rd floor, apartments on the 1st floor, apartments across the building, outside the building, apartments 2 minutes walk away from the original location. We've got apartments everywhere, and staff don't really know whether they're going to be able to handle it until they're actually in the business doing it every day. So make sure that you have a probationary period, and always train your staff. When you've got a new member of staff working, don't just say to them, okay, you've got the job, there you go, start working. Because what will happen, there's going to be a lot of mistakes. It will put workers off, and they'll just want to leave. So make sure you support them right from the beginning. What I do with my work is, if I have a new team member starting, I have them shadow an existing team member for a whole week. Not just 2 days, but a whole week. They need to experience what it's like checking people in at weekends, what it's like to check people in during the week, and what it's like to check people in especially on Fridays, because everybody knows Friday people go crazy. So make sure that you have somebody shadow a new team member. If you haven't got an existing team member and it's just you, then have them shadow you, okay? There's nothing like learning by watching. If you just throw someone in the deep end, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I learned the hard way when I did that earlier on when I was starting. So yeah, you might look at it and think, well, I don't really want to pay someone for a week when I'm there doing the job myself. It's an investment. You have to pay them because they're there and they're spending their time there. So you've got to pay them. But what that does for your business is that when you leave them by themselves the following week, they're confident, they know how to talk to guests, they know how to build the rapport, the relationship with the guests, and more importantly, they know the process by practicality and not theory, you just telling them what they need to do. So that's the reason why you have to give them training, at least a week of shadowing and training where you sit down and talk to them for at least half a day, taking them through the ins and outs of your business. Managing staff. Again, this goes a little bit into hiring staff as well, but managing staff is also very, very important. If you don't manage your staff, they're just going to do what they want to do. Okay. I've had people turn up to work at 11 o'clock and they're supposed to be in the office at 10 o'clock. To me, that's not acceptable. But if you're not managing them, if no one is checking up on them, they're going to do that because in their head, they're thinking, well, I'm going to get there for 11 and I'll quickly do what I need to do and then start checking guests in or doing the admin work or whatever. They're not factoring in that you're paying them from 10 o'clock for a reason. It's to do with efficiency and productivity. If you have to start work at 9 o'clock and you turn up at 10, your boss is not going to be happy. The same principles apply to your service accommodation, whether you've got one apartment or 50 apartments. I'm sure you know. Make sure you're managing your staff. Make sure they know what they need to be doing. Make sure they're guided and make sure that they're supported. If you can't do it, make sure that you've got someone on the ground to do it. A question that I get all the time is, how can you live, 80, 90 miles away from your business and still be able to have a business? There's no such thing as passive income in service accommodation. Really, there isn't. If you're an operator, you have to have eyes and ears and feet on the ground where the locations actually are. It would be impossible for me to run this business living in Birmingham with apartments in London. I mean, how the heck am I going to do it? Somebody needs to make sure that the apartments are actually clean. Somebody needs to make sure that the guests have been checked in on time. Somebody needs to be answering the phones, responding to emails, processing payments. There's a lot that needs to happen on any given day. Okay, so if you haven't got staff that know what they're supposed to be doing and what time they're supposed to be doing it and how they're supposed to be doing it, there's going to be a lot of confusion and aggro for you in the short term. You don't even have to wait 6 months for that to happen. It will happen within a month. So make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. Make sure that you hire the right staff, competent staff, train them, and then have them on a probationary period of at least 3 months. Okay? So now I'm going to show you the companies that I use. So basically, this is Stowbridge. Stowbridge is the linen, bedding, towel hiring company. They do absolutely everything that you need. So if you haven't got anyone hiring your hiring bedding for you. Does that make sense? Well, you know what I mean. Then go on Stowbridge. They're a good company and I highly, highly recommend them. Condiments and toiletries, I use Nisbets, that's nisbets.co.uk, and melcrest.com. The melcrest.com are my favorite because they've got a range of everything, different brands. They've got, the condiments that you need, the coffees, the sachets, all these little things, and they're so cheap. I mean, look at that, $7.50 for hundreds of little coffees and stuff. And then you've got the milk pots. Teaspoons as well if you need them, although not necessary, but they're, if you need them. They've got everything, so check them out. In terms of hiring your staff, I use caterer.com. It does cost you money to place an ad, but it's not expensive. What you do is you place an ad and then you literally have hundreds of people responding to you because they're interested in your job, and then what you have to do is pick the ones that stand out the most, invite them for an interview, and then decide who you're going to give an offer of a job to. So, these 3 companies, I did say that I was going to show you the pricing for bedding. So this is pricing for Stowbridge. This is the base stock, and this is what I'm actually charged for. This is how much it is, and that's the total, obviously. So we can see here that the pillowcases are 27p per pillowcase, per pair of pillowcase. That this is to hire, by the way, not to buy. And then that's the price for a single sheet, for a double sheet, for a single duvet, a double duvet, a hand towel, bath towel, and a bath mat. These are all the prices. As you can see, It's really, really, really affordable. Really affordable. So don't stress yourself out by hiring. No, sorry, don't stress yourself out by buying. Hiring it improves your cash flow because Stowbridge actually has a 1 month invoice term. So if they send you an invoice today, you've got a month to pay it, which obviously helps with cash flow. So that's just another reason to hire your linen as opposed to buying. So that's it for this module. If you have any questions, tag me in the group or send me a message. A lot of you are favoriting email messages, and I'm getting a ton of emails coming through. So just bear with me. If I don't respond to you straight away, I definitely will within 24 hours, because otherwise the easiest thing to do is to tag me in the group. Not only does it help you in the group, but it helps others as well, because other people could have similar questions. So if you ask that question in the group, then it will be of great benefit to everybody else. So I'll see you in the next video. I hope you've enjoyed this part of the training. I know it's over 30 minutes. I'm trying to condense these trainings into not more than half an hour, but hey ho. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.